guys, thank you so much for taking the time to watch our videos. It's exciting to see the channel grow. We really appreciate all the feedback that we've been receiving, and it's even more exciting to see an increased interest in trapping. And so with the season just days away, I like to take the time and make sure all of my traps are prepared. And in order to prepare your traps, there's a couple of things that you need to do so that they continue to work effectively, and it's just really good maintenance for your equipment. And probably the three most important things to do as you are getting ready for the trapping season, especially when it comes to preparing your traps, is to boil the traps you're going to use. Boiling your traps in hot water helps to kill and eliminate any scent that might still be on the trap from the previous year. And it also helps to loosen up and get a lot of the gunk and grime and dirt and mud that gets packed in your trap from the previous season. Once you boil your trap, then the next two steps are just as important, and that's dyeing your traps and waxing your traps. So in this video, I want to show you how I dye my traps. I dye all of my traps, whether I am setting on the ground or in the water, because I believe it helps to maintain a high functioning piece of equipment, and also I believe that the darker the trap, the better. It's more of a camouflage, more of a natural color for the animals, versus when you just buy a trap out of a store, it's bright shiny silver. So I like to use an all natural dye for this process. Now there are products out there that are very effective and that I've used. There's a logwood product that you mix with water and you boil it and you can dye your traps, and that's a very good way. But I like to take a little extra time and use a method that I learned a while back, and it works incredible. I believe it is the best way to dye your traps. I think the trap itself comes out incredible. It's nice and dark, and there's zero unnatural additives, no ingredients that do not exist in nature. And so what I use is the walnut from a black walnut tree. And I happen to be lucky in that I've got a black walnut tree on my property. And this time of year, the tree is getting ready to drop all of its walnuts. And so what I do is I just take a bucket and I start collecting walnuts. And this, I only have one tree, and so it takes me a while to go through and to find all the walnuts as they fall. I'm also competing with the squirrels. The squirrels love these things. And so I got to get out here in the morning before the squirrels and start the search for these things, because if I don't make it a priority, the squirrels definitely do. And more times than not, I've come out and been skunked because the squirrels have beat me to the punch. So I do this over the course of a couple weeks. I just go around, kind of search through the leaves and try to pick up all of the walnuts that have fallen. One of the ways you can identify a black walnut tree is obviously because it's got walnuts that grow on it. You can see there's one right up there. These trees lose clusters of leaves in the fall, like this, which makes it easier to help identify them. Yeah, you can see right here, a pretty unique leaf pattern. And this happens every year. So once I get a 5-gallon bucket filled up, what I do next is I transfer them into my stainless steel pot, which I have already done. Again, because I have been collecting these over the last couple of weeks, I've already filled up this 5-gallon bucket, and I keep them out exposed to the sun and the warmth, and I just let those black walnuts soak in water for about a week. And you can see how dark that's turned the water. So all of these walnuts were on the ground about 10 days ago, and I just put them in the water, stick the container out in the sun, and let Mother Nature do the rest. All right, so after having the walnuts soak in the water for 7 to 10 days, I then transfer the liquid only into this bin. You can see it's just an old burning barrel that I've cut in half, and look at how dark that is. Look at how dark that water is. Mother Nature simply extracts all the tannins from these walnuts and turns it into just this dark black dye. All right, now that I've got my dye boiling, it's time to dip the traps. All right, I'm going to start with my 1.5s. I use these for mink. I use them for muskrats. I use them for fox. So all right, I was able to get a dozen 1.5s in here. Now these traps have already been boiled just in hot water to get them ready for the dye. But you can see I can fit a dozen 1.5s in this pot. Just let them sit, let them soak for a while, and then I'll be ready for the next round. Simple as that. All right, so these traps have been boiling in the walnut dye now for probably 10-15 minutes. I mean, you can see, look, I just stuck this rod in, and look at the difference. Look at how dark the tip is compared to the rest of this rebar. And that's just from stirring these around a little bit. So look at how nice and black those got. And that's just sitting in this dye while it boils for about 15 minutes. So I'll go ahead and pull the rest of these traps, get them drying. And move on to the next round. But that's all there is to it, guys. As simple as that. All right, so I got the first dozen dyed. You can see how nice they turned out. You can see the dye even stained my skin. But while these drip dry, I get the next batch going, and then you just keep rotating through, and before you know it, you're going to be ready to set some steel.